Okay, so everyone, just to present Professor Luisa. She is an associate professor at Università degli Studi di Napoli Federico II in Italy, where she leads the Multimedia Forensics Lab. In 2018, she was a visiting professor at the Friedrich Alexander University in Germany. And in 2019, 2020, she was also a visiting scientist at Google AI in San Francisco. Her scientific interests are in the field of image and video processing, with main contributions in the area of multimedia forensics. She has over 120 academic publications, including 45 journal papers. It's a very impressive curriculum. She is also the principal investigator for the University Federico II in Naples. And she is the principal investigator in the project funded by DARPA and under the Semaphore program called, I forgot the name. Let me check if I can. Do you remember the name of this project?
Yes.
Discover. Thank you. Thank you for helping me. Called Discover. She has actively contributed also to the academic community as chair of several events in the area of multimedia and forensics, including ICIP and CVPR, which are top conferences in the area. She is also on the editorial board for the IEEE Transactions on Information Forensics and Security and the IEEE Signal Processing Letters. And she's also been a guest editor at the Journal of Selected Topics in Signal Processing, also from IEEE. She's the chair of the IEEE Information Forensics and Security Technical Committee and a vice chair of the EUROSIP Signal and Data Analytics for Machine Learning Special Area Teams. She is a recipient of the 2018 Google Faculty Award for Machine Perception and also a recipient of the TUM IAS Hans Fischer Senior Fellowship from the University of Munich. And she has also been elected to the grade of IEEE Fellow since January 2021. Wow, that's a very, very
thank you,
curriculum. So Luisa, thank you once again. Yes,
I'm really happy to be here. So I just wanted to check that everything is fine. I changed the connection. Is everything fine?
Everything is perfect now. We can hear you.
In any case,
crystal clear.
Okay. So if you think there is something weird or you cannot hear me anymore, maybe you can just interrupt me because maybe I do not realize that the connection is not good. Okay.
Don't worry, we'll stay here paying attention. Thank you very much once again, Luisa. Your talk is very interesting. It's in an area where deepfake is, all around us. So thank you very much, and we are very excited for your talk. You can begin.
Okay. Can everybody see the slides?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes. Okay. So let's start. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they are more than the time I have, but just wanted to check that in any case, I have sufficient material for this lecture. Okay, so this lecture is about deepfake detection. And I think everybody of you already knows what is a deepfake. And there are plenty of videos over the web where actors are actually, that involve actors. So where you have this face swapping operation, where the face of an actor is replaced to the face of another actor. And I mean, what is really incredible is that the realism of these videos is getting really better with time and technology. And you can not only just modify the face of a video, or maybe not only the face, or even its expression, the speech, but you can also generate faces, and not only faces, but completely from scratch. And this is like a sort of trying to understand the progress in the last few years, where you can see what now you can do by generating a completely synthetic faces. If you have never seen, you can go to the "this person does not exist," where you can have an idea of what you can generate using faces. Of course, now it doesn't involve only faces, and you can generate almost every type of object. So this talk is a tour on deepfake detection. So first of all, we would like to understand why is detection possible. So why we are able to detect that an image or a video has been manipulated. We will also present what are the most important ideas in this field, and in particular, we will mostly focus on ideas that are related to the deep learning field, because I mean, it's actually performing best than other most traditional approaches based on statistical modeling. But we will also highlight which are the major challenges in the area. And I will also give you an example of an adversarial scenario, which is quite interesting. Okay, so why is detection possible? Let's consider which are the most important clues for detection, because these are, we can better understand also the detection approaches. Okay, one first thing, sometimes people ask me, oh, how can I understand visually that an image has been manipulated or is synthetic? And you can see, for example, here that sometimes these images have some color anomalies. You can see here the color is not perfect, or also here there is this black on the nose. Sometimes there is this lack of symmetry, like the color of the eyes is not perfectly symmetric, even the ears are not perfectly symmetric, or the earrings of a woman. So sometimes the constraint on symmetry is not always satisfied. So there are this type of semantic inconsistencies. However, you have to think that technology is really going fast. And so, I mean, you can see this type of artifact now, but I mean, it's something that will disappear very, very soon. And so there are not only these visual artifacts, but there are also camera-related artifacts. So the point is that inside the camera, there is a pipeline with different type of processing operations, and each of these processing operations is different based on the type of camera, and is different, and whenever you modify a pattern inside an image, then you cannot find the specific correlation that are supposed to be in a camera. We'll talk later about this concept of camera fingerprint, which is very important. And you can then see manipulations as a sort of anomalies, because you can extract what is a sort of fingerprint from the camera, and you can see here, for example, if here there is the face has been modified, and if you extract this pattern of the camera, and this pattern summarizes all the internal operations of a camera, you can see that here there is something strange. So this pattern has been disrupted, has been modified, and you can detect these anomalies. This means that in this area, you cannot find the pattern that you are expected to find in the image. So these are, of course, hidden traces, hidden artifacts that should be properly emphasized. And what's really interesting is that these deep learning architectures, like, for example, a generative adversarial network, also present a specific pattern, which is completely different from a camera. Of course, it's an architecture composed, which is not a camera, does not present the typical operations that are inside the camera, but it can be, in any case, be extracted from image, and in some papers this has been defined as a sort of artificial fingerprints. And what some papers also have highlighted is that there are some specific artifacts that can be easily highlighted in the frequency domain. You can see here these peaks that correspond to some specific operations in the generation process of the synthetic images that can be highlighted in the frequency domain. So even synthetic images present this sort of fingerprints, and I will talk about this later in the presentation. And then there are this other type of inconsistencies that are specifically related to a person. For example, when you do this scoping, so you have a source identity and then a target video. And the face of the source is replaced in the face of the target video. So you can see here the result, the deepfake. Now, it's very difficult that when you do this operation, you are able to preserve perfectly all the biometrics of a person. In which sense? The way a person moves is her head, or the way a person expresses is her emotions, or even the muscle movements of the face, and actually they are very difficult to replicate. So these are inconsistencies that are really related to the soft biometrics of a specific person, and this also is a very interesting direction that one can follow for identifying a deepfake. Okay, so let's now start to understand which type of deep learning-based strategies have been considered in the literature. Typically, most of the approaches rely on a supervised learning approach. This means that you have a large database of pristine videos and of fake videos, and you learn the artifacts. Okay, you learn both visible and not visible artifacts from these images or videos, and then you develop a specific architecture, CNN architecture, in order to distinguish if the video is real or fake. And there are really many learning-based approaches that have been proposed over the literature. Most of them rely on some specific architectures. For example, sometimes they suppress the scene content and focus on the artifacts, on the hidden artifacts. These are residual-based analysis. Other time, they even rely on very deep networks that are used in the computer vision community, which also works very well. Often, they try also to exploit the temporal direction. So you can find here recurrent neural network, spatiotemporal features. And I mean, there is really a lot of type of possible directions you can follow, like also consider attention mechanisms and even work on the spatial domain or the frequency domain. Very recently, even transformers have been used for this task. So you have a very large variety of learning-based methods in the literature, and they actually have a very good performance. And even the main problem of all these learning-based methods is that they are not easily interpreted. So you cannot really sometimes try to explain what's happening, while it's easier using feature-based methods. For example, when you try to detect a very specific type of inconsistency, as I told you before, a sort of symmetry inside the face, or even the inconsistency of the head pose, the art variations, and I mean, there are a lot of possible inconsistencies that can be extracted, and in this case, of course, you can better explain what you are detecting from the video. Now, in order to train this algorithm, you need very large data sets, and there are many in the literature. One of the first data set is Space Forensics++. This was a joint work with the Technical University of Munich, and so this was like 4 years ago, and because we started in 2018, and we consider different type of manipulations in this dataset, because we wanted also to check how it was difficult to detect a face whooping, for example, respect face, where in face-to-face you are not replacing the face of a person, but you are just changing the expression. And so we considered this again a target video and a source video. And for face swapping and deepfake, you also change the identity of the person, while in this face-to-face and neural textures, you are only modifying the expression of the person. And so we had for the same video 4 different types of manipulations that helped us to understand how the algorithm could perform with respect to this scenario. Okay, the face forensics plus indeed now is larger, and we have also this Google dataset. Then you can download it from the same GitHub page. This is also very interesting because this dataset is composed by a larger variety in terms of scenes, movement, and it only includes face swapping, so the classical deepfakes. Now, in general, whenever you have to process a video, typically the analysis is carried out only on the face. So there is like face detection, so you track the face inside the video, and then there is the classification step. And our first work tried to make a sort of investigation of analysis of one single machine learning work, which is this steg analysis features. Steg analysis features because they were used the first time in steg analysis, for steg analysis, which is a very related topic with respect to forensics. And we actually made a comparison with the other deep learning based methods. And here you can see that the detection results are really very good, and you can see actually that the performance, the accuracy is almost 100% for all of these methods, and in particular there is actually no difference with respect to the 4 types of manipulation. And I mean, we said, okay, the problem is easy, we can detect everything, and it seems that everything was working well. However, if you take a video, manipulate it, and then recompress it, and so we have this detection results on the compressed data. So we modify the video, but then we compress the video. And note that compression is fundamental. You have to compress the video when you upload it again on, if you want to upload it on a social network, for example, or over the web. And so we considered this scenario where we have compression, you have here low quality and high quality. So we considered the performance on low quality video and high quality video using a different compression factor. In particular, we have for low quality, it's equal to 40, and for high quality, it's equal to 23. And we compared again the performance. And you can see here that the performance are really now different in the sense that the performance of the single machine learning approach that we consider, this steg analysis features plus SVM, are really lower than all the others deep learning based methods. And exception at that time was a very deep network with respect to the other solutions that were more solutions that were really solutions coming from the forensic field, while ExceptionNet was a deep network coming from the computer vision field. And we were very much surprised that this network gave so good results. And we think that the fact that we had a large data set and a deep network, a very deep network, was really a good solution for this task. So you can see that compression is not really a challenge for this type of problem, even in this situation. And you can also see that neural textures, however, are in any case not easier as deepfakes to be detected, because you only change the expression of the face and not the whole face. So maybe this is actually a problem. It's more difficult to detect. So facial reenactment is in general more difficult for detection with respect to face swapping. And we also made an analysis considering two faces in a video and trying to understand if we could also localize the face manipulation. And in this case, you can see that again, on uncompressed data, results are perfect, and you can perfectly localize every type of manipulation. But on compressed data, you can start to see some false alarms. So, of course, low resolution is actually a problem for detection, especially because, as I told you before, you can have like this very slight, you can have these hidden artifacts that are very, very unique. So if you compress the image, these artifacts can disappear. So it's important to train the network in the right way, otherwise you cannot see anything anymore. Okay, and in order to understand if the network generalize even on YouTube, we actually considered some videos from YouTube, and we noticed one important thing, that we need some form of fine-tuning, because the pipeline of YouTube is completely different from the pipeline of compression that you have when you, for example, use some editing software or even your smartphones. And it was very important to train on some YouTube videos in order to obtain even good results. So it's very important in general that you try to have a sort of alignment between the scenarios you are considering. So whenever you want to choose a data set for training, ask yourself, okay, what is important for me and which scenario is important for me. If I want to detect deepfakes over the web, maybe I should collect videos and deepfakes coming from the web. Otherwise, it would be complicated. Okay, and another important thing is this interpretability stuff, because when this is a deepfake video that was created by the MIT Center for Advanced Virtuality, where President Nixon was only the speech of President Nixon was modified. And so we actually only applied some form of visualization of and trying to understand which part of the video were mostly responsible of the final result. And so here you can see that for the real video, we have almost this blue map. Of course, sometimes you have some red, but it's not persistent as in deepfake that corresponds especially on the mouth. And this was interesting, even if it doesn't really solve the problem of explainability of the deep networks. Okay, in any case, recently there has been really a lot of data sets available. You can see here in 2020, there are really many data sets like CelebDF, the Facebook dataset, which is really very large with 100,000 manipulated videos, then deeper forensics, wild deepfake. And so even now, I mean, even this year, you can find even more of these datasets publicly available online. And the fact that there were so many datasets helped us to carry out also a different type of analysis and of experiments. So first, I want to show you that some of them are really great in terms of realism. So here you can see that the space swapping between these two actors, and this is the result. While in this other dataset, the Facebook dataset, what is really interesting and challenging is the fact that there are very different type of scenarios with the people with the different background, even more than one person in a video, and there is a lot of movement, and this makes this dataset really challenging. Okay, So this cross-dataset analysis, so the fact that we had all this dataset helped us to make a cross-dataset analysis, which means we trained on face forensics ++, so the dataset we have built, and tested on the dataset created by Facebook. So you can see that when the training and test is aligned, so on the diagonal, you have more than 90% of accuracy, while in the cross-dataset analysis, performance gets worse. And even what we noticed, this can be also this is also a problem if you consider two different types of manipulation. So if you have trained on face-to-face, which is only changing the expression, and then you test on face swapping. Okay, here it's even worse. So you have almost perfect detection result in terms of training and testing on the same dataset, and then on the same type of manipulation. While you go to 50% if you have like this face-to-face training and then face swapping testing. I don't know, maybe there is an answer, but I cannot read it because I have like, is there an answer, Matteus, on what I'm saying?
No, everything's fine. We're just getting some questions, but we'll answer them at the end of your presentation. Yes.
Okay. Sorry. So just to check. Okay, perfect. Okay, so you can see that both for cross-dataset analysis in terms of I have a dataset and training on a dataset and testing on another dataset, and in terms of this face-to-face and face swapping, so different type of manipulations, there is a problem in terms of generalization. So what is really important is to understand what's happening with generalization. And we did some more experiments also considering different type of generative adversarial network architectures that, for example, in this case, we trained on CycleGAN, which is a specific architecture, and then testing on StyleGAN, so another architecture. And you can see again, if everything is aligned, then it's almost perfect. The problem is when you train on another target. So you train on CycleGAN and test on StyleGAN. And the same is actually happening for face-to-face and face swapping, even considering different algorithms. So the problem is really this domain shift that you cannot really solve if you apply the classical supervised learning method. And okay, here just to show you that in CycleGAN, you have this type of changing the style of an image, while in StyleGAN, okay, even in this case, you are changing a sort of image-to-image translation because you change the style of this real woman and make her become like a man. But in any case, they are both image-to-image translation, but carried out using different architectures, and you cannot just train on one architecture and test on the other. Okay, so the take-home message here is, okay, in a supervised setting, everything works well, and we can solve the problem of deepfake detection, but only if training includes data with the target manipulation. So with manipulations that are similar to what is included in test. And this holds for facial manipulations, but also for generated images, for synthetic images generated by different architectures. Okay, so what was very important, and what is really important is that the problem is not only different type of manipulations or different type of architectures, is also suppose that you trained on videos that were all compressed with a specific quality factor, and then you test on other type of quality factors, or, for example, you test on YouTube videos. So you have really to pay attention to these alignments, because they can be really something for which your detector will not work. And this is also the reason for which when there are a lot of deepfake detectors available over the web, maybe even already trained. Before trying them, you should first ask yourself, okay, which was the dataset used to train this approach? Because this really can change a lot the performance. This was also highlighted during the Facebook challenge that was present over Kaggle. I will show to you some results in a moment. Okay, so we have seen that one of the main problems is generalization. How can we face these problems? So how can we improve generalization? So in the literature, there are, in the very recent literature, there are some possible approaches. And I will explain and describe to you some of the approaches we also used to solve this problem. In particular, we will talk about this one-class learning, and also consider like augmentation and ensemble, which is something quite easy but very effective. And then we will talk about identity-based methods. There is also there are also works on few-shot learning, incremental learning, that is also interesting, but in this case, you need a few examples of the manipulations you want to detect. Another interesting approach is like trying to look at common traces in fake faces, because whenever you do a face swooping, then on the border, here on the edge, you need to do some blending in order to make the manipulation very realistic, so in order to avoid to reduce all the artifacts. And this blending is very much similar in different type of algorithms. So some papers try to detect this type of operation. Okay, so let's start with this one-class learning and try to understand what does this mean. Okay, so one-class learning essentially means that we are learning from only one class. And if we learn from the pristine class, then that's fine. Because if we learn from the pristine class, then we don't care about what is fake. We try to model what is real. And whenever we find an inconsistency, we will say, okay, this is a deep fake. So this is the idea. Now, before going into this type of approach, I want just to explain to you what is actually this PR-new, which is this device fingerprint, because this is a very important concept coming from the digital forensics, and that has a lot influenced all the research in this area. So the PR-new is a photo response non-uniformity noise that is typical of the sensor manufacturing process. What does this mean? This means that whenever you have two images, and if they come exactly from the same device, not the same model, but the same device, then they share this noise that is related to imperfections in the sensor. And you can extract this type of noise, and this is a fingerprint. This is a fingerprint that is embedded in each image, and that lets an analyst to identify the specific source, so the specific device that took the photo. This means that if you give me 100 images coming from a camera, I can tell you which is exactly which is the device that actually was used to take the photo. This is a really powerful tool for source identification. And this type of procedure, typically you have to take, as I told you, 100, 150 images from the device, then extract these residuals, so you are actually suppressing the scene, and then you can estimate this photo response non-uniformity noise. Now, typically, you need, in order to do this, you need 100 images from a specific device. And so it's powerful, but you need some prior information. And whenever you can estimate, so what you can do, you can estimate this photo response non-uniformity using these images. Then you have the test image, suppress the scene content, estimate the PRNU, and then make a correlation with the fingerprint you have estimated from the camera. And this procedure helps you to identify areas of the image that were not consistent with the camera fingerprint. And this means that a modification took place in this area. This is the correlation field, where red is high and blue is low, corresponds to low values. And so here you can see that in this area, correlation is very low, and probably there was a modification here because the estimate of this fingerprint from the test image is different from the estimate from that was taken from the camera. Now, this procedure is very powerful, but you need images from the device. And typically on the web, we don't know which was the device that took a specific image. So what we did? So we said, okay, PRNU is a very robust and it's also very general, because you don't care about the modification. You just you are just checking for what is pristine, what is real. And whenever you find an inconsistency, an anomaly, then you say, okay, there is a manipulation here. So it's very general, it doesn't care of the specific type of manipulation. And main problem is that it's a weak signal and it needs the availability of the camera or of many images taken from the camera. So what we did, we changed the perspective and used a CNN-based approach, where we didn't have the need to have some prior information on the device. So we didn't have even images coming from the same device. We actually removed all these hypotheses. And we said, okay, we would like first to focus on all the camera model artifacts, because whenever we modify an image or a video, all the processing pipeline has been modified. So we don't want only to focus on this sensor noise, but also to JPEG artifacts, demosyking, whatever is inside the camera. And this is very important, so that this fingerprint is stronger. And then we don't want to have any type of prior information on the images or on the camera. And so what we did, we trained a Siamese network, which is actually with this idea. We took a lot of devices. So our first experiment only included the 125 devices, not devices, but camera models, so different camera models. And then last year, we retrained everything on more than 600 different models of smartphones and, I mean, what cameras. So we had a very large data set. We do not require that the image under test is coming from one of these devices. So it's not required. We just collected many of these. We considered only pristine data. So we are only working on pristine images. And the way we apply this learning procedure was, okay, let's minimize, let's take patches from these images and minimize the distance between patches that come from the same camera and same position. Position is important because this sensor noise is different based on the position. So we constrained on the same camera and same position and maximize the distance with respect to patches coming from different cameras. So this learning procedure helped us to extract a fingerprint that was not specific of one single device or one single camera model, but we just trained the network in order to extract this camera fingerprint. And then we applied it on an image that was not present, of course, in training, but even we don't know the device. I mean, this was a test image coming from an evaluation of a project where we didn't know anything about this image. And we applied this extraction of this fingerprint that we called noise print, because it actually includes all the possible cameras or editing-based anomalies. And you can see that this noise print, differently from the sensor noise, is stronger in terms of artifacts. And you can see this anomaly here. Of course, you need to extract the anomaly from this noise print in order to visualize it better. And it's not obvious the way you're extracting this anomaly, because you need to not just to do I mean, you can do clustering, of course, but sometimes in some cases you have to do a specific post-processing in order to highlight the object that was, in this case, inserted in the image. These are some sample results on some different type of manipulations. And you can see, for example, in the second case, in this case, you can see this grid. This is actually the JPEG grid that is very visible here from the noise print. And for example, here you cannot really see anything, but the clustering procedure can help you to visualize the manipulation. And this same approach was applied to videos. So we extended exactly what I told you before to videos. And the major problem in this case was the fact that we were not able to collect a very large data set of different cameras or smartphones, because for videos, I mean, it's more a problem to download from the web I mean, you don't have so many publicly available data sets as for images. So the number of videos was not exactly not so many. And we also found another problem with videos, that is stabilization, which actually created a lot of problems in order to extract correctly this information, this noise print. In any case, the procedure was essentially the same. And again, we extracted the patches from same camera, different camera, and make this minimization, maximization procedure. Note that the procedure is applied not to the original patch, but to the residual. So we always get rid of the scene content, because we don't want really to highlight on visual artifacts, but on hidden artifacts. We think that visual artifacts is really just a matter of, I mean, you know, now there are some visual artifacts, but we noticed that they can easily disappear. And when I started to work in forensics, like it was more than 10 years ago, we started working on these cheap fakes. So all these manipulations that you can do, for example, using Photoshop or some software editing tools. And typically the image was always perfect. So you didn't have any type of visual artifacts. And we were forced to look to these hidden artifacts in the image. Okay, and for noise print extended to videos, we also worked on several frames, because we wanted to extract this residual artifacts on multiple frames and then average them. And here you can see an example of coming from the Face Forensics ++ dataset, where you can see actually the manipulation. Here there is something for which there is something strange on the face. And here you have some analysis on different type of manipulation, so deepfakes, face-to-face, and face swap. And in some cases, I mean, it's not always the same. Here you can see something strange on the border, on the edge of the face, but here also on the eyes, on the noise. And if you analyze only the face, then you can easily highlight this type of artifacts. Of course, you can see that also in the background, there is some noise. And in fact, it was not easy to have a clean heat map like in the case of images, also for videos, which probably are much more difficult because there is much more movement, and even because they are much more compressed with respect to images. Then we tried on YouTube on this video, it was quite good because, I mean, you can see all this strange and dark area on the face of the actor, and then using a clustering procedure, you can see that on the face on the child there was no type of anomaly, while here you can see actually a mask that was superimposed on the face of the actor. And okay, then one can think, okay, but can also for a synthetic image generated from a generative adversarial network, they also leave artificial fingerprints. So all these images are synthetic. You can see not only faces, but now you can generate everything. And we did the same analysis that you do when you have to extract this PRNU, what I explained to you before. And we extracted these artificial fingerprints from the synthetic images. So we suppressed the scene content, obtained these noise residuals, then averaged them, and compared with the noise residual from a test image, and made this normalized cross-correlation. And what we saw is that actually, if we consider two different architectures, like a cycle gun and a progressive growing gun, and we average over a growing number of residuals from the images, from these synthetic images, we can see that there is a quasi periodical pattern where you can, there is almost a periodical pattern, and this pattern helped us to distinguish the images coming from different architectures. So, for example, we extracted images from cycle gun and progressive growing gun, and you can see that the correlations are well separated, and this really indicate the presence of this unique fingerprint for synthetic images. And this is great, which means that the synthetic images has a fingerprint which is completely different from real images even, not only different from images coming from different architectures. Okay, so after all this stuff on one-class learning, just something about augmentation and ensembling, because these are very important operations in general, and in forensics you can really benefit a lot about this type of operation. So typically when you train a deep learning, a convolutional neural network, you consider some standard geometric operations like rotation, resizing, flipping. In forensics, some other operations that were really important are like compression, okay, which now you can understand why compression is important, but also blurring, noise injection are very important. And I will show to you also some other that were also used during the Kaggle competition. And ensembling is also important. Of course, if you want to win a competition, ensembling is really great. So you just consider the combination of different architectures that were used during training. And one important, some experiments I'm showing to you now is that, for example, if you suppose that we train only on one single architecture, so which is progressive growing gun, and consider different type of categories. So we have pristine and synthetic images, and we train only on one single architecture. So if we train only on progressive growing gun and then check on unseen architectures, you can see that the performance are quite good if you do this augmentation. So you you train only on progressive growing gun and do strong augmentation, which is this augmentation that is here. And you can see that the generalization is quite good, but gun traces tend to vanish after compression. You can see here, for example, that if you have this, as I told you before, this very strong traces, these peaks in the Fourier domain, if you compress a lot, then these peaks tend to disappear. So that when you consider the compressed version of the images, the performance are not so good. And these are so, of course, they are perfect on the progressive growing gun because they were present in training. And you can also have good results on compressed versions. But on other architectures, you have worse results. And what is really interesting is that these results are even worse in terms of accuracy. Now, in accuracy, you have to set a threshold. And so one of the main problems in forensics is that even if you can distinguish the two distributions, so you can distinguish real from fake, and here you can see this because the area under the curve is very high. But when you set the threshold, if you have a fixed threshold, then maybe the threshold is not good for the other architectures. So pay attention in terms of metrics. Sometimes if you have a high area under the curve, that's great. It means that you can distinguish real from fake. But then how to set the threshold? Because if you set the threshold not in the right way, then performance can be very low. And this is quite evident here. For example, if you want to distinguish real images from progressive growing gun, then the threshold here is set to 0, and it's fine. But if you want to distinguish from cycle gun, you should change the threshold. Because I mean, these two distributions can be separated, but you have to change the threshold. And the problem is how to set the threshold in the best way. So it's not only important to have good performance in terms of area under the curve, but it's also important to set the right threshold. And what we found in our recent paper is that one way to face this problem, also the problem of setting the threshold and to generalize, is to avoid any type of resizing or reducing information, and even when you have to test the image. Sometimes most of the computer vision approaches resize the image when they have to make like when you have to, both in training and even in test. I mean, in forensics, it's completely different because if you resize the image, if you modify the image, then you are even reducing this artifact, this hidden artifact, and you should not do in this way. So in general, what is best is to crop patches from the image, but not take the whole image and then resize it, because you can lose very important traces in these fingerprints that you need in order to distinguish image from the real from fake. And even what we found was that to avoid downsampling in the first layer. So at the beginning, when you have to analyze the image, avoid the downsampling operation in the first convolutional layer. This was very important. This was something that was also applied again in the stake analysis field, and it gave very good results. So in general, however, even on the test image, do not even compress it or resize it, but take multiple patches and then combine the score from these patches. Is better than consider any type of operation that reduces information that maybe for us, it's not visible, but it's important in terms of forensic analysis. If you have to do recognition of a cat, of a dog, if you resize an image, a cat is always a cat. But if you resize an image with these forensic clues that are hidden inside the image, you can really change a lot, and you can make confusion when you have to distinguish from the real image. For videos, actually, I want to show you an experiment that we did where we focused on the solution proposed by the winner of the Kaggle competition. It's not a 3D solution. It was like a frame-by-frame analysis, and then the result from 32 randomly extracted frames was averaged, and then the score was actually computed. And it was used efficient NetB7 together with a strong augmentation. An interesting augmentation that was carried out was face cutout. This is interesting in the sense that general cutout, you just only put this gray squared random in the image, while this facial cutout was specifically tailored for the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and this was something that helped to improve performance. Okay, so what we did a cross-dataset analysis. So we trained on the Kaggle dataset and test again on a dataset created by Facebook, so that was aligned. This is the first one. So in the first one, you have an aligned dataset, and the other are completely different. So this is the Google dataset, and there is this CelebDF, the dataset I showed to you before. And if you have this type of, these are the performance on a single frame. So let's see what happens whenever we make some modification to the way we train the network. Okay, on the single frame, these are the results in terms of accuracy. Then augmentation helps a lot to improve this result. And they are quite similar, even on other type of dataset that were not included in training. Then cutout was very good for the Kaggle dataset and CelebDF, not a lot for the Google dataset. And then if you perform a video analysis, so not just one single frame, but this 32 frames coming from the video, then performance again improves. And okay, ensemble of 7 networks, they were all efficient NetB7, can really give a boost in terms of performance. So this was just to make you have a bit of sensitivity on this type of operations and how they improved the final performance. Okay, so of course, working on multiple frames is really important. It's not obvious how to use the temporal information. Sometimes if you not use it in the best way, it's better to take single frame and then make an average. Augmentation is really important, and even augmentation that is really thought for the specific type of problem. So that was this cutout on the facial parts of the image, and ensemble was really also another important point. Okay, so just let's give a look at this identity-based methods. This is our last work on that was actually presented in October at ICCP. And in this identity-based approach, the idea is completely different. You are not asking, is this real, is this fake? You are asking, is this actor A in this case? And the idea is that you have a test video, you have a reference set of videos, of real videos of the specific subject, and then you evaluate the distance computation. So you say, okay, I have a test video, then I have some real videos of this subject, and I want to see if they match. And so, which is the best way to do this? So of course, you have to extract some biometrics features that are specific of the subject in order to make all this process work in the right way. And some work already consider that face recognition can be already a good solution for deepfakes, in the sense that if you apply face recognition, it can give to you some sort of separation between real and fakes. But this is okay for face swapping, where you change the identity of a person. But face recognition does not really work if you consider facial reenactment. You are not changing the identity, but you are only changing the expression of this face, of this original video, and make it fake, but using the expression of another actor. In this case, it doesn't really help a face recognition. So what we did, so we have this video under test, we have a set of reference videos, and then we extracted these 3D morphable features from the face, and then consider the temporal network together also with an adversarial training. So the idea is to use contrastive learning, where we can actually have an embedding space where features of similar subjects are actually should be near. So we try to consider features, we produce features similar to those. We have this adversarial game where we try to increase the ability to distinguish real identities from fake ones. And, oh, okay, sorry. So we have both a contrastive learning where we consider the network is trained so as to make the embedded vectors of the same subjects close but far from different subjects. And then we also have an adversarial game. And in this adversarial game, we generate faces of that are fake of the identities in order to improve the ability of the network to distinguish real from fake. So in our network, there is this adversarial strategy that is especially useful for facial reenactment. And here you can see the visualization in the embedded space, where real videos that are relative to different actors are separated, this blue and red, but they are also separated by the manipulated videos, both face swooping and facial reenactment. So this was just to show that the features we extract from the faces could be well separated in the embedded space for different type of faces. And what was interesting is that for this identity-based methods, we do not need fake videos in training. We only train on real identities. In particular, we considered Vox Celeb2 dataset that consists of about 5,000 real videos. And the supervised learning approaches with whom we compared instead are only trained on all on the Kaggle dataset, which is very large. And we tested on high quality and low quality videos. Okay, we considered several types of comparisons, so ensemble methods, temporal methods, even one identity-based method. And here we can have the results. Now, it's very interesting if you focus on what here we say manipulation in training. So if the manipulation are in training, the performance are very good. If we consider manipulation out of training, so like face swooping and facial reenactment, you can see that the supervised methods do not give a good, do not achieve good results, while the identity-based methods are not affected by different type of fakes. And even if we consider low quality video and we trained on high quality video, I mean, the performance of our approach are still high and are not affected by this mismatch. So the idea is actually that you are not using fake or in training, and you are focusing only on real videos and on the specific biometrics. There are detection results in the wild, where we compared the videos for Nicolas Cage. The first 3 videos are real. Then we have 4 fake videos, and then we have two strange videos in the sense that one is an imitator and one is an actor, is an imitator, but it's a deep fake of an imitator. And you can see that in this case, results are still above the threshold, but I mean, if the deep fake is really well done, it's a bit more difficult to distinguish the biometrics for our method. Okay, just 5 minutes. Don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but just want to show you that it's not only that it's a difficult problem and it's challenging because you are working on compressed data, on low quality videos, etc. But every time you work in forensics, you have to think that it's a 2 players game. So you can have an adversarial scenario. And of course, you know that there are adversarial perturbations, adversarial examples in deep learning. Everybody of you, I think, have read about this. But in forensics, it's even more, because you can actually say, okay, I have a detector, then I know how the detector is working, and I want to make, I want to pull it and make it not work properly. So it's not only a problem of saying, okay, I can add some adversarial noise to the deep learning based approach, and so that you cannot detect a deep fake anymore. But you can even say, okay, I know that your algorithm is trying to extract a camera fingerprint. And what I can do, for example, and what we have done in this paper that was presented in June 2021, was that we took synthetic images. I told you that synthetic images are characterized by artificial fingerprints. So we took these synthetic images and we inserted a real fingerprint, because we wanted to make it appear as an image coming from a camera. So we took a synthetic images generated by a gun and then inserted a camera fingerprint, similar to what you can find in a real image, and wanted to understand what happened. So this is quite different from just adding a perturbation. We are really attacking the hidden and trying to mask these hidden traces that are inside an image. And we wanted to make the image appear as was taken by a specific camera. We didn't want any type of visual artifact. And we didn't want even to know anything about the gun detector. We only make the hypothesis that the training data are actually coming from the same distribution. I don't want to give you details on the specific architecture we considered, but I mean, it includes a game using a gun, where we try to generate an image with the same content of the original image, but where we introduce this camera fingerprints of real images. And in order to do this, we have several components: a discriminator and embedder. Okay. Not really important to go into the details. What is interesting is to check for the results. So we worked on different types of architectures, and even architectures not used in training. And okay, you can see that original and attacked images are similar. I mean, you cannot see specific artifacts. And that we could attack like this approach. This is the true positive rate before the attack. And this is the true positive rate after the attack. And this is another example, the true positive rate before the attack and the true positive rate after the attack. I mean, this is a better detector because there was a very strong augmentation here that helped to better react to our attack. But in any case, I mean, it's a problem, especially if you have like an architecture out of training. Okay. So I would like to have some minutes also for your questions. So, okay, this was a very intense and overview of what is now in deepfake detection. I mean, developing reliable forensic detectors is not easy. As I said to you, there is compression, there is low quality, there are possible new manipulations, and you don't have them in training. There can be a skilled attacker who know what you're doing and try to attack you. And what you can do. Of course, I mean, research now is very focused on generalization, on robustness. There is also works that try to characterize the malicious intent in the detection process. Now, you can see that deep learning is everywhere. You can also generate high-resolution images and videos using deep learning. But then, are these fakes? Should I detect these images as fakes? Of course not. So I should understand if they are malicious or if it's just enhancement. And this is really not easy to do. You need maybe to do an analysis which is not just a single image, a single video. You need some multimodal analysis. So video plus audio, which is something we're doing, image plus text, consider all article. And it's very important also to work to interpretable solutions. So as I told you, deep learning is better than extracting features and machine learning, but in any case, you should explain to someone, this is fake for this reason. Otherwise, it's a black box, and can I trust this black box? You know, this is all what we have said before. And you can also find now a lot of methods that are active methods. So methods for which it's not something for which you try to insert some signature inside your data in order to protect them. And there are a lot of interesting approaches. There are even approaches where you try to make not work a deepfake generation. Like, for example, you modify a bit the face in order that when a deepfake algorithm, a generation algorithm, try to detect all the key points, it doesn't work anymore. So, I mean, there are a lot of very interesting solutions in terms of trying to protect the data. And so, I mean, if you want to start this very interesting and stimulating topic, I mean, you are welcome. And there are really a lot of possible directions in terms of research. Okay, I want to give you some space for your questions.
Thank you so much, Professor Luisa. It was an honor. It was a very, very interesting talk. I was just commenting with Guilherme, my friend who is also organizing the conference, because this topic is so interesting and so important today, since we have a lot of repercussion of deep fakes, you know, giving people the wrong ideas for important things like political and health issues. So I think it's a very, very interesting topic, and I invite everyone to consider studying it, looking for Professor Luisa. I think we should, if you could leave your contact here for us.
Yeah, so sure. I always find people to work with us in our project. Yes, I think, let me just, I have to interrupt sharing, otherwise I cannot do anything.
No problem at all.
Okay. Yes, okay, so this is my email if you want to contact me or whatever. If you want just to make... okay, no, probably I didn't to all. Okay, sorry. So even if you have only some questions or you want some advice, and of course, if you want to work with us, I would be happy to...
Oh yeah, we have some questions from the audience as well.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to start with a question from Leonardo de Jesus da Silva. He said, I'm working with the subject and my problem is creating a model that can classify deepfake in different methods. I think that is similar to the idea of different GANs or different models. Do you have the same problem? Are you working on the same problem as well?
Okay, so images or videos?
Oh, he didn't specify, okay. But let's just say it's images for now.
Yeah, okay. I mean, as I told you, one of
he said it's videos. He just complimented.
Yes, okay. So it's videos. So I mean, for videos, yes, it's a problem, generalization. So what we are doing is actually trying to consider training only on pristine videos. As I told you, this work on biometrics actually do not consider fake videos inside the dataset. And so this one-class learning is something for which you don't care about what is fake. You check for anomalies. And even in the other, for the other approach where we try to extract camera fingerprints, you are not training on another dataset. But if you want to train even on fake data, then you have to consider which is your target. For example, if you want to detect deepfakes, okay, that's fine. Do you want to detect deepfakes over the web? Then pay attention on what you put in training. So you should also put your data over the web, download them so that they are aligned in terms of compression pipeline, and do a lot of augmentation. Of course, this is a bit black box. If you do augmentation and you train on a lot of data, I mean, it works if you are aligned with your test set scenario. Otherwise, you should consider like domain adaptation approaches or something for which is incremental learning, active learning, few-shot learning. So you should work along this direction. Otherwise, you don't know. I mean, a solution for which you can say, okay, it is working quite well, is to pay attention to the scenario and do very strong augmentation.
Yeah, you're completely right. This problem of dataset shift is actually around several other problems of machine learning. So there are a lot of methods that can be tried in this field as well. Very nice.
Yeah, you should adapt them correctly, because of course, I mean, here, as I told you before, it's not computer vision where everything is visible. It's something that is hidden typically, because you can have the artifacts I've shown to you before, but they are likely to disappear. And then if you use these deepfakes for creating fake news, you would never use something with artifacts. You would use something that is visually, very perfect or very realistic.
Exactly. We have to expect them to be as smart as we are, so then we can outsmart them eventually.
Yes, you're right.
Very good. We have another question from Iago. Coelho. He said, what is the current involvement of media companies, such as the news channels and social networks and law enforcing entities, in improving these methods for detecting fake images and videos? Are they actively conducting any research or funding researchers in the area?
Yeah, okay. So I started to do research, as I told you, 10 years ago without any funding, but starting in 2016, I have a project funded by DARPA. So this is actually that was Medifor. And in 2020, it's Semaphore, the one you cited before. It's funded by DARPA. Google is funding also my research, and Facebook, actually funded this Kaggle challenge, and so they also have they also are collaborating with universities, and they are actively involved. And in general, there are a lot of other companies and people who really are a lot interested in all this stuff, and so are involved in this project. So there is a lot of interest, yes, on this. And
that's great.
There are actually companies and governments that are actually trying to fund. I also have an Italian project on this topic.
That's very great, because we really need a lot of help in detecting this type of attacks, right? Yeah. Alex Borges, a student, is also asking, hello, Professor Luisa. He said, thank you for your interesting and complete lecture in several aspects. He said, are there ways of reinforcing the abilities of a deepfake generator by using the outcomes from a deepfake detector? If so, would this become a cycle of deepfake eventually becoming undetectable?
Yes, I understand what to say, because of course you could actually, it's a game, as we said before. You're right. Of course you can have a malicious use of these deepfakes, but for sure, companies that are involved even in the generation, think that all this generation of deepfakes is not done for bad. It is done actually for typically for movies and movies production, and even there are a lot of good aspects of these deepfakes. Okay, so this said, when you create a synthetic video like this, you typically do not take care about everything. You typically take care of what is visual, but not of what is maybe not visible. So in this respect, you can have a margin of detecting. Notice also that if you do this game of detection and generation at the same time, you are able to fool the detection. But if then you use another detector, which is much more powerful, you can, in any case, use it in the right way. So, you are right. If you do this game, maybe it can be undetectable. But then if you use another one, then it's completely different. You can still have a lot of chance to detect deepfakes.
Exactly. I think that's the thing behind adversarial training, right? You already infer that there's going to be an adversary. So if he tries to outsmart you, you can also try to outsmart them, and so on and so forth. It's a cycle, like you said.
Yes, it's a cycle.
We have several people congratulating you for your excellent presentation, myself included. We have a final question from Professor Guilherme Correia. He said, could you tell us, he's also thanking you for your talk, and he said, could you tell us a bit about the effects of deep learning based image enhancement, super resolution, and auto-encoding methods on the efficiency of deepfake detection?
I mean, we never tried to include this type of data. I mean, in the sense that we never mixed them with the deepfakes to understand if we were able to distinguish even super resolution from deepfakes. I mean, I think this is something that we have to try, like mixing everything, mixing what are the good, the enhancement, deep learning based approaches for videos, and deepfakes, which are malicious, and then the natural videos, and try to understand. I think this is something that could be really interesting to do, because we are not really aware of the effect of synthetic videos that are not fake, in the sense that they are that they are acceptable and it's just enhancement with respect to these. Typically, data sets are just deepfakes and then the real videos. So it's a bit different. So, but I think it's really an interesting point. I mean, one should try to understand which is the limit also in this respect. So if these videos are a problem in terms of detection.
Yeah, I completely agree. I also had a question, but you kind of answered it at the end of your talk, but I'm just going to say it again.
Sure.
Because it was just regarding the idea of using other types of information from the media that we have, like textual, audio, the source of the video.
Main problem is to obtain, to collect of this information in the right way. For example, there are not a lot of data sets with the videos and audio available, which are but well done. Not just something for which you swap the audio of another person, but you have actually to build the data sets where the audio is the same of the specific person you want to manipulate. And so this is not something that is really, I mean, at least we didn't find many data sets that could be used for training and even for testing the data. But inconsistencies, I mean, there are some works on inconsistencies between video and audio, but the data sets are not very large. So, I mean...
Once again, data sets is the problem, right?
Yeah, data sets is the problem. And even for text, you need, text, which is the right text near an image or near a video. You really need a fake article, which is built in the right way. Otherwise, you cannot say if you can say maybe it's fake just because it was not well done, but okay, that's complicated to generate all this type of data. But there is a lot of this DARPA project on semantics forensics is a lot focused on multimodal, and so maybe data sets will come in the near future because there is a lot of people involved and a lot of work.
Yeah, I agree. And I was also going to mention about the temporal features, because there might be cases where the video is not completely fake. It has like a real part, and then at some points they added something right there. So they think we shouldn't notice. But if we use temporal features as well, you can easily detect these things, I assume.
Yes, you are right. I mean, not all the videos are completely fake. They can also be only manipulated in some parts. So it's important to tell which are the parts that is manipulated. I mean, yes, I completely agree.
That's very nice. Thank you so much. Once again, Luisa, it was enlightening, it was inspiring. We're definitely going to keep in touch because I'm very interested in this field. So everyone, once again, thank you also for your presence here. We had a lot of audience today watching your presentation. And we hope to see you again some other time in presence.
Maybe in presence.
Yes, please. Of course.
Yes. I also would like a lot to be in presence. I miss a lot all the community, and all the discussion that one can do, not only during a school like this or a conference, but when you go together in a break, or you have lunch together, dinner together.
Exactly.
It's great because they are the right moments to exchange
the best moments. Yeah.
Yes,
exactly. I completely agree with you. Okay, so let's hope for that.
Yeah, I think this is the last day of the school, right? It's
it
finished today. Okay, so it's great that you organize this school. I mean, it's a lot of effort, but I think the students will be really happy for this.
Oh yeah, and they're so happy because they're seeing a lot of messages saying that this is the school is great, and they're loving the talks. And this is it is a lot of work, but it all compensates when you read this message.
If you need the slides, I can share the slides, of course.
Absolutely, of course. Yes, we're going to ask you all these contents afterwards, because we're going to share it with the audience
perfect.
after the event. So thank you very much once again, Luisa. It was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you, everyone. Also, if you have any more questions, you have the contact for Professor Luisa in our chat. And we're going to go for a short break now, lunch break, and we'll be back at 1:30 p.m. for a talk of machine learning in real life from André Azevedo. This talk will be in Portuguese. So I'm going to switch back to Portuguese. Luisa, arrivederci.
Ciao, arrivederci.